try it out, and hopefully you're all getting a chance to get to know each other a little bit better, maybe meeting some new artists or friends or community along the way. That's the idea behind these Artist at Work sessions. And with that, I might open it up with, does anyone want to start with a question? Yes?
I noticed a lot of movement in your paintings, and I was actually just standing there and just seeing the movement, and I was wondering, since you've worked in other mediums, if you'd ever considered animation.
Oh. I'm going to ask, did everyone hear the question?
No.
Everybody hear the question?
Not the last bit.
So the question was that he saw a lot of movement in my work, and sort of knows that I've worked with other mediums, and asked whether or not I'd be interested in working in animation. Maybe. I don't, it's funny, I a long time ago tried to do like stop motion with like the textile stuff, and found it just like for my own temperament to be really frustrating. That just was not the right media. And then I actually did the 7 Below residency for BCA a while back. But there was a guy there, Matt Bollinger is his name, he's an artist, painter. But he was doing this sort of silhouette theater pantomime stuff and filming it. And I found that really interesting, like in terms of just like a two-toned media to create this sort of moving space. I don't know. I'd have to like, I just, maybe. That's the, I always think of like, what's going to happen when I finally reach a point where I'm done with the paintings? Like, I don't know. And so I like that. Like, maybe you're putting a seed in my head, and like in 10 years from now, I'm like, maybe I'm doing animation.
To just see a stop motion of like your process, your painting.
It starts
Take
with
your
the
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to help me with that? That sounds good. All right. Super.
Do it for free.
Let's do it.
Someone else? Yes?
I was just wondering what advice you would give to someone who'd never painted before but wants to start.
Do it. Get a canvas. Buy paint. No, actually, the advice, sorry, I get a little like joke.
I can be more clear. What do you think is the most important part of the process of painting for you?
The most important part of the process is making time for it. That's it. Make time for it. If you want to paint, if you want to make anything, make time for it. If you want to, if you're trying to start something totally new, you've never painted before in your entire life, make a space, or, when I say make a space, it could be like your kitchen table, it could be a corner hands off and just do it, take that risk. But sometimes it actually takes like talking it through. Or if you are in a community like ours and you're interested in getting into art making or something like that, go to an open, meet another artist. Talk to your friends about it. Maybe you have a friend who's a creative, maybe they're a writer. I actually used to talk to a lot of writers and a lot of musicians before I even got into making a lot of paintings, and I was doing photography at the time, but it was kind of like there was a different approach for me for that. So as I was trying to get into painting, I was talking to these writers who were talking about spending 10 minutes a day, like the writer's block. There's this thing that they do with writer's block. I'm like, they, as in the writers, they do this thing with writer's block, which is actually a creative exercise to push through a block and also get new ideas flowing. And they write for 10 minutes. And it's almost like automatic writing. It doesn't matter if they're writing complete sentences or writing the same word over and over again. The physical act of just doing it for 10 minutes. And I kind of, when I think about what I was saying to Kaylin just now about like creating a space, it's almost like creating a space to make mistakes, to be open to making mistakes. And so that was kind of like switching mediums and not having a familiarity with it can be a really scary thing, and it's almost like talk to the people that you talk to when you have a problem in your life. Talk to them about that. That's kind of like solving this sort of like creative fear, right? It's like, I'm thinking of becoming a painter. I've been a CPA my entire life, and I want to start painting, and I don't know where to start. And this is really scary, and I don't know what I'm doing. And then you hear yourself saying that to your friend, and your friend's like, you should do it. Just go for it, because they're your friend, and they're going to be there for you. Or they're like, I don't know. Talk me through this. It's like reach out for the support that you need in any, like a metaphor for life. But yeah, creatively, there's a lot of support for that. Yes, go ahead.
I'm curious, when you're kind of sitting there and you have like your blank space, you're creating spaces in your canvas, and you're using a lot of different mediums for each piece, is there a significance for each medium when you choose to apply it? And if so, like, is there a process to the layers?
Yes. Certain layers go, like certain paints go on top of other paints. So for example, if I were to work with, let's say I'm working with ink, gouache, and acrylic, or graphite even, ink is sort of like the most natural layer to go on first because it's got a lot of water in it, and also, we're talking about like actual physical properties of a media here. There are limitations for these things. So building up a surface kind of has this natural progression. Although I try to break it, and every time, I try to break out of those natural laws of you've got this water-soluble thing, and then you've got this acrylic that's thicker that goes on top of it with a binder, and then like, can you do graphite on top of the acrylic? It kind of works, but not as well as it works some areas that have ink. And then if you bring gouache on top of it, the gouache can sometimes create this kind of weird crackly layer. When I try to break those rules, I always am reminded of why the rules are there in the first place. Because it's not archival, it's gonna fade, or you can wipe it off. Like, I very recently made the mistake of purchasing, I'm really interested in this, it's like an iridescent paint that's called Interference, and it's got like a sort of mica mixed in with a binder into the pigment. And I by accident bought some that was actually watercolor interference, and I tried to treat it like it was acrylic. And so I put it on top of this acrylic layer, and then my elbow rubbed it after it was dry, and it was gone. Just wiped right off. So yeah, so there is like a logical way of layering some stuff.
My question kind of goes along with starting. So I normally I have to start with a sketch when I see something in my head.
like, I would collect these things with really no purpose, and I think the reason why I liked them was because you had to interact with it. Like, you couldn't just, like, it couldn't just sit there. It was like, or if it sat there, it forced you to interact with it, because every time you passed it, you're being winked at, or every time you passed it, the owl would take off, or it would look like the vase was moving in the angle with you as you're walking past it or holding it in your hand. So I've been aware of them for a long time. The first time I saw them printed was in Houston. So I grew up in Houston, and the first time I saw them being printed, there was a print studio that was next door to a friend's studio, and they were printing portraits of couples, the man and the wife, as the same image, and they were doing this like almost like I think it was like around Christmas time, and these were going to be Christmas presents. And so all of these artists were with their partners were getting their pictures taken, and then they were being printed as these lenticulars. And it was like two people kind of morphing into one. I was like, this is and they were printed large too, so I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. You can still do this? Like, this is something that's still being done? And then fast forward to a couple of years ago, I was really getting into using a lot of silver paint on the surface of some of my ink drawings. And one of the things that happened was this, like, when you would walk by the painting, some things would show up and some things would disappear underneath this layer of silver. And I immediately was like, the feeling was like lenticular. This is a lenticular. I'm making a lenticular. And then I was like, oh, what if I actually, can you print these? Like, they must print these now because there's movie theaters that have them. So then I started researching into the lenticulars, and then it just took off. I actually found a place in Hudson that printed them and did some small ones, and thinking that I would get it back and it would feel really kind of hokey and kind of gimmicky. And the first one that I got back, it was actually 2 ink drawings done together. And it was like, it wasn't hokey and it wasn't gimmicky. It felt, I was like, this is what I'm trying to say. Like, whoa, this is it. So then, it's been a slow process in terms of like developing, like pursuing to do more of them. It's kind of like I have to decide, like, one, if I'm using the work that I'm making, I have to make the work first before it gets photographed and turned into a lenticular. So there's that part. But then there's also just like printing restrictions. There are places that will do larger prints, but they want to do them in these editions of like 500 because they're used to doing it for movie theaters or large scale production. And there are some artists out there who are doing them right now as part of the art, as part of the sort of like visual language of our culture right now. And I think it's so exciting. It's like, yeah, definitely very new for me, but moving that.
Well, just to sort of extend that question, I love those little painting campaigns. I think they're exquisite. And they're so they're so sort of potent. You know, there's a lot going on. So I was just wondering, what scale were the original paintings that those were taken from?
The 22 by 30. That's the scale of the ink pieces that are in those, and then they're details of textile works. So the textile pieces are much larger, but the image that's being used is sort of a close-up detail of one of these larger textile wall hangings.
Okay, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
a bit thick. I still don't quite get it. So you scale
So they get scaled down. Yeah, they get scaled down. So 22 by 30 inches is like about this size, maybe a little smaller. And then getting scaled down to an 8 by 10. And then some of them, I think the one that's in the bottom right is actually, I think that's has a closer up detail of one of the ink drawings, so you can get the sort of more fluid lines. You can actually see it a little bit better. And then I would say the detail of the textile pieces is probably to scale. Like, is it a typical balance for you? Yeah, some people maybe not. But for me, applying for grants like has kind of always been part of being an artist. It's a way to get funding or partial funding for a project, so I don't feel like I'm completely subsidizing it through the work that I'm doing that's supposed to pay rent and like bills and things like that. But as an artist, I think many of us here can identify with the fact that like you get a paycheck and the first thing you want to do is you want to go out and you buy those materials that you need to keep doing the stuff that you want to do. And so at one point I realized like I actually have to sit down and get to understand grant writing. I was lucky and very privileged to work with somebody who's a great grant writer. She's actually here. Her name's Chris Hadsel. So my very first job in Vermont was through the Vermont Painted Theater Curtain Project. I was a conservation technician.
She is.
I still am.
When I can get it.
Right, when she can get me. I still am. I haven't lost that title. I like that title. But this project applied for grants through the NEA, the NEH, various different organizations, helped other small town halls, Grange halls help also apply for like a cultural facilities grant to get matching funds so that we could come in and we could help conserve these historic theater backdrops. So working with Chris, I learned a lot of nitty-gritty details about grant writing, about how to write the proposal, the narrative, the budget, how most folks don't want to fund your entire budget. They want to fund a portion of your budget. That was huge for me. As soon as I made, and like this is, I'm going to focus on this for a second, because as soon as I made that connection, I started getting grants. Rather than asking, like saying, it's going to take $3,000 for me to do this whole project with lenticulars, actually no, it's going to cost me $12,000 to produce this project with the lenticulars, because it's not just paying for the printing of the lenticular, it's the materials going into making the pieces, it's paying the photographer to photograph them, it's promoting any of the shows that are going to happen, it's like in any of the travel, any of the correspondence, the time, you know, that all goes into this budget. And then applying for a creation grant saying $3,000 of this grant is just going to the printing portion of these things. But the whole project costs this much. So that is like, if anything, in terms of grant writing grants, and like, I really encourage everybody, even if you have never written a grant before, to try it. One of the things that I sort of hone in on, and this is also thanks to Chris, is that when you're applying for a grant, they ask for a narrative. They specifically spell out what they're looking for in their mission statement, and also what they're willing to spend their grant money on. So I am an artist making work, like I'm making work in this da-da-da-da-da-da-da style. Your mission is to support artists making work in da-da-da-da-da-da style. The grant monies will go towards making work, and it's a lot of repetition, and it's a lot, so like even in the artist statement, as you're writing the artist statement, it's a different kind of artist statement that goes into a grant versus an artist statement that goes to a gallery or a curator, because you're trying to address your project and the specifics of the project and why that institution should jump in your boat and go sailing with you until your project's done. So that's the best. Yeah. And then also fellowships and applying for residencies and things like that. It's also, that's another way to sort of support yourself